Okay, I think hopefully everyone that wanted to join has joined, and obviously anybody can keep joining. Welcome everyone. We know that many of you are using or beginning to use Teams, and that these past few weeks are making it a hot button issue. Because of that, we wanted to have this webinar and alleviate some of the confusion surrounding conferencing and communication options available within Teams. I'm Tom Erdely. I'm one of the network engineers here at Liftoff. We work with hundreds of government, corporate, and government contracting organizations doing deployment training and training for these Microsoft technologies. As we begin this presentation, notice the Ask a Question box on the right side of the screen. Please feel free to ask any questions you may want throughout the presentation. Once I'm finished with the presentation, I'll try to answer as many of those as I can. Some of them may be offline. And if we don't get to your question during the presentation, just reach out to us directly. As a reminder, our email is 365help@liftoffonline.com. I'm going to throw that in the Q&A right now. So you guys should see that in the bottom right-hand corner of your screen. Okay, so today's agenda. We're going to go over how to get Teams if you don't already have it. If you do have Teams, or if you're going to get Teams, how to also add dial-in conferencing. What the difference is between the Teams application and Teams objects, which are kind of inside of the Teams application. How to do chats, how to do group chats, both in the organization and externally. How to do meetings, both scheduled and Meet Now, and how to do live events, which is what we're doing right now. Okay, so how do I get Teams? Any user that wants Teams needs an E1 or G1, an E3 or G3, or an E5 or G5 license. They're all the same. The G is for government, E is for enterprise or corporate. So an E1, E5, E3, any of those, they come with Teams. So if you have those already, you have Teams. Once you're licensed, or once your users are licensed, you can get to Teams using the desktop app. There's a mobile app for iOS and Android. And also there's the Teams website, which is actually very robust at teams.microsoft.com. So the next question most people ask is, how do I get dial-in conferencing? How do I add a phone number to this? It requires that whoever needs the dial-in conferencing already has Teams. And then it requires what's called the audio conferencing add-on license. When you get that, all you need to do is add it to your user, or to a user, and then after between 15 minutes, and lately we've actually seen it take a couple hours, but sometime soon after you add the license, Teams meetings that these people create, anyone with that license will have a phone number, and then those meetings will also have a PIN for dialing in. And I'm going to show you a little bit about that later. Okay. So with that said, let's get started. I'm going to show you some of the ins and outs of Teams. Okay, so you should see Teams now on your screen. That's my Teams, my demo Teams. And the first thing I'm going to touch on are the differences between the Teams app, which is this. This is the Teams app, and the object in your organization called Teams. Okay, so Teams themselves show up here. Typically your administrators would create a team. It's a group, it's a SharePoint site, it's a document library, it's got a wiki, it's got a OneNote. There are some communication features, and basically anybody in that group or that team is privy to all of that stuff. That's not going to be part of this demo, so I just kind of wanted to separate that. Okay, this is more for the communication pieces that you get when you don't even need these objects, right? So these objects, like I said, they create a SharePoint site. They have a pretty big administrative overhead, And what a lot of people don't realize is for most of the conferences and meetings and chats and communication, you don't need a team, okay? But confusingly enough, you do need the Teams app. So again, today we're going to talk about the Teams app and how you can use it for communication. So we're going to kind of skip over this part. If you do have any questions about the actual Teams objects, again, feel free to reach out to us. Okay, so I'm going to start with chat. And this is something that a lot of times when I show people this, they're pretty, I guess, pleasantly surprised by the group options here. So I'm going to start with a one-on-one chat. And also a lot of people can't find this little icon here. To the left of the search bar, there's a chat icon. That's how you start a new one. And then I'm going to start chatting to my boss, Ron Bratz. And I'm just going to say hello. Okay, so a few things about the one-on-one chat, and a lot of these things actually apply both to the one-on-one chat and to the group chat. I'm going to look at the group chat in a second because that's kind of the thing that a lot of people are interested in. So the one-on-one chat is, as you can see, Ron just sent me a message with an emoji. So that's one of the things you can do. At the bottom, you can see there's GIFs. So you can add GIFs to your chats if that's something you want to do. You have emojis. You can add attachments by browsing on your computer, clicking on this paperclip. And then you can also actually drag and drop files directly into the chat. And what it'll do is actually upload it to your own OneDrive. And from there, it'll kind of seamlessly send the other person a link. They can open it and you guys can actually collaborate together in this chat window. So it's pretty darn cool. It's private, it's secure. You know, it's in the Microsoft data center, so it's completely secure. If you have retention policies in place, they include, and you've set it up this way, it would include your Teams chats. So what I'm showing you right now is probably the most obvious thing you can do here. What may not be as obvious is in the top right-hand corner, we've got some pretty cool things here. And actually, I'm going to show them to you in a group chat. So I'm going to create a group chat first, and then to the group, I'm going to do a few of these things. Okay, so to create a group chat, top left-hand corner, same thing, new chat. This time I'm going to include Ron and another one of my colleagues, Brian. And as you can see, so far it thought I was adding just Ron, so it showed me my history. Now I'm adding Brian, and it's brand new, okay? So then I'm going to say, hey guys here, that's my chat. Oops. Okay, so now I've chatted, I've created my group, and we've got some pretty cool stuff here. So before I show you some of the extra add-ons, I'm going to show you some cool stuff. So both Brian and Ron got my IM, or my message. Same thing applies, drag and drop messages. You can click the attachment icon, add attachments, emojis, all that good stuff. One really cool feature, you can imagine if you have chats, chat groups with lots of different people, and maybe you've got 30 people in one group and you've got 15 in another, it could be a little hard to keep track of. So if you look right next to the names, there's a pencil. If I click on it, I can rename it. Okay, so I'm going to call it the Liftoff Guys. So now I've got a chat with the three of us, and it's the Liftoff Guys. So now if you look over on my chat list, I've got a named chat. So I've got the single one-on-one with Ron, and I've got the named chat for the group. So again, as you can imagine, if I'm chatting with, you know, hundreds of people or whatever, however many people you're chatting with regularly, and then you've got all these groups, this list is going to fill up quickly. If you want to make sure that a chat group or a specific person is at the top of your list, all you got to do is right click and choose pin. So I certainly want my boss at the top of the list, and I'm also going to include the Liftoff Guys. So now if I start chatting with a lot of different people, those two chats are going to stay at the top no matter what. Okay, so in a group or in a one-on-one chat, top right-hand corner, you've got some options. Okay, so the one I'm going to choose right now is this middle one, which is an audio call. So typically you'd have a headset or a mic, you know, in a laptop, a microphone and speakers. And then when you click this, the other side rings. They can answer it. They're not going to because I'm in the middle of a webinar right now. But it would create a voice call, just like you'd think it would, right? And the really cool thing is it works on mobile devices. Okay, so for instance, my boss and I talk all the time. We're chatting. We decide to make it a voice call, and then my phone rings, my cell phone rings. All I got to do is answer it, and it's like any other call. So it's very cool. On top of that, so that's the voice call. To the left of it, if you've got a webcam, you can do a video call. And then there's the far right circle, which is screen sharing. So this could be helpful if you wanted to present your screen, kind of like I'm doing now. Or this actually works with the one-on-ones, especially inside your organization, if you want to help somebody, right? You guys, a lot of you guys are IT people. So if you're helping somebody and they're using Teams and they hit you up and say, hey, my, whatever isn't working, you can say, hey, share your screen. All they got to do is click that button and you're in business. You can see what's on their screen. So again, you can do that one-on-one. You can do that in a group with many people. There's some things to know though about these chats. Really, the main limitation there is it has to be 100 people or less. Okay, so if you need more than that, you're going to have to do a meeting or an actual full-blown team. Okay, the other thing of note, which is really cool, if you deal with other organizations that use Teams, you can add them directly here as well. Okay, so you can actually chat one-on-one. People do this all the time with me. You can chat one-on-one with somebody who's got Teams, or you can create a group that includes external people, and all of the same things apply. So it's pretty darn useful. And again, it accomplishes a lot of what you guys might be trying to do for these people working remotely, right? You don't need a team necessarily. You can just create a group chat, and it doesn't require IT. It doesn't change your environment. It's just a one-on-one group chat where everyone sees the other thing of note here, everyone in this group chat sees the Liftoff guys in their list. That's not a personal name. So everyone, Brian and Ron also see the Liftoff guys in their list. Okay, so that's chats, IMs, chats, group chats. The other thing that a lot of people are trying to do is let's see, is meetings. Okay, so that's a big one here. So I'm going to show you how to do some meetings here. You can see I already have a test. I'm going to create another test for tomorrow. So for a normal meeting, I can do it in really one of two ways, right? So if I want to set up a meeting tomorrow that uses Teams, I'm going to double click on a time slot. I'm going to call it test team meeting. And then I'm going to invite somebody. This is important. If you don't invite anybody, it becomes just a normal meeting, no teams. Okay, so I'm inviting Ron. I'm just going to say test in the body, and I'm going to send it. So Ron just got a normal invite for tomorrow called test team meeting. If I double click on it, an important piece here is that the team's information is below. Okay, I'm going to get into this information in a second because I think there's a better way to do this. But the important part here is if you create a Teams meeting using the mobile device, iPad, iPhone, Android, webmail, the Teams app, the Teams web page, any of those things, the Teams information is going to be tacked on after you send it. Okay, so then you can reopen it as you can see here and see the Teams information. Again, I'm going to show you guys maybe a better way to create meetings in a second. So I'm going to go ahead and close this. I'm going to minimize Teams, and I'm going to show you in Outlook. Here's my calendar. Okay, so first of all, here's the test Teams meeting, right? So that's the one I just created in Teams, and it kind of goes back and forth between Outlook and Teams. So it's the same exact calendar. Now I'm going to create a new one for Friday at 10 a.m. Right, so my preferred way to create an appointment is to highlight whenever I want the appointment for. If I want it to be a Teams meeting, I'm going to click on New Teams Meeting. Okay, so now you can see it's a normal invite. I've got my title, and again, I'm going to invite Ron. Test from Outlook. I'm going to say Ron. Okay, so the cool thing here, though, is before I send it, I can see my Teams information. Okay, and what I wanted to show you is you probably noticed under Join Microsoft Teams Meeting, there's a phone number and a conference ID. I get that because this account has an audio conferencing license. So again, if you don't have an audio conferencing license, you're going to see this. It says join Teams meeting. You can click on it and actually join the meeting using the web page, the mobile app, or the Teams app. But if you want a phone number, you need the audio conferencing license. And again, what it gives you is anyone that wants to attend the meeting can dial that number, put in the conference code, and then they're part of it. Okay, some important things here. Attendees of these meetings don't have to have Teams. They can, but they don't have to. So if they're in your organization and don't have Teams, they'll be able to join. Probably not with the Teams app because they probably won't have the Teams app. If they're out of your organization and have or don't have Teams, they can join. If they join as a guest via the web, they can free-form type in their name. They don't need to log in or anything like that, and then they join. Okay, so now what I'm going to do, I'm going to go ahead and send this just because. I'm going to get back to Teams. I'm going to get out of Outlook. And give me one moment. Okay, so now I'm back in Teams. I'm going to show you a third way. So I showed you how to create a meeting in Teams, and then I showed you how to create a meeting in Outlook. Now I'm going to show you how to do Meet Now. So if I know that I'm going to deal with somebody right now and I want it to be a meeting versus like a chat or an IM that I showed you earlier, I can click Meet Now. This is Meeting with Tom Test. You can see, you can give it a name, whatever you want it to be. I'm going to turn off the mic and speakers because I'm using them. And I'm going to say join now. So obviously I just created this meeting. I'm the only one here. Okay, so one of the things I can do is click the three dots here, show meeting details. And here's all that stuff that would have been in my Outlook invite. All I need to do is click copy join info. And then I can actually go back to Outlook, create a new message. It doesn't even have to be an invite. I can use Gmail if I want to. It doesn't even have to be Outlook. I've got it on my clipboard. I just pasted it. This is what I can send people. And it's specific to this meeting. So it's pretty neat. It's a one-time meet right now meeting. And what I'm going to do here is the other way to add people besides sending them the invite information is to type their name here. You can actually, if you have an audio conferencing license, by the way, you can type in somebody's phone number. So I'm calling Ron. He's going to join the meeting. And we're going to mute it. Again, I'm using my my mic and speakers right now for this, but I wanted to show you a few things. So this goes for all meetings. Actually, I'm going to re-close Outlook here. Okay, so all of the meetings, you can see this interface is a little bit different than the chat one, but you've got a lot of the same things. So first of all, on the right-hand side, if I click the participants list, I can see everyone who's in the meeting. Okay, again, you can imagine this meeting can have a lot of people in it. Some considerations here are if you want to mute everyone, if the meeting has over 5 people, they should be auto muted at the beginning. And then there's a mute all button. I can't show it to you right now because there's not 5 people, but it would be right above my name. There'd be a mute all button and it would mute everyone besides myself. Because of the nature of these meetings, participants can actually unmute themselves. Even if they dial in, they can do *6, or there's just a button on their Teams app if they want to unmute themselves. And if they do that, they can just unmute themselves, just like if it was a real conference, right? You know, in a conference room, anybody can talk. So it's less a presentation and more a meeting, but again, as an organizer, you can mute everybody. Okay, in this case, anyone with a screen and speakers can watch and listen. If you've got a microphone, a headset, or a mobile device, you can partake, right? You can talk as well. And again, this goes back to that audio conferencing I just laid out for you. If you have that license, people can also dial in without the Teams app with an actual phone line. Some other quick things here. There is an icon for chat. This is a chat specific to this meeting. So you can chat just like when you were one-on-one chatting earlier. You can drag and drop attachments, you can GIFs and all that stuff, GIFs and emojis. You can share the screen. We use this day in and day out here at Liftoff. You can share your screen. And you can also click more actions, start recording. So that's something that a lot of people want. If you want to be able to record for this type of meeting, you've got to do it manually, and this is how you do it. 3 dots, start recording. Okay, and then obviously you've got your microphone, you can mute or unmute. You can turn the camera on or turn it off. And then one more thing, I'm going to go back to the participant list. You can right click on other participants just one at a time if you want. Ron's already muted, but if you can kind of see it, it's grayed out. I can mute him. Okay, so he can unmute himself, and then I can remute him if I need to. Remute is a very strange word. Okay, so one other thing about these meetings specific to web joining. If you're going to join with a web browser, there's some weird limitations. Only Chromium-based browsers, and the two main ones are Chrome and the new Edge that came out a couple weeks ago. Those are the only browsers that you can share your screen with. Okay, so if you need a participant to share their screen, you want them to join using Chrome. If they join with Internet Explorer, Firefox, anything else, they can't share their screen. Okay, and really that's about it for a meeting. I'm gonna go ahead and hang up on this meeting. So again, you've got Meet Now, you've got the meetings that you can create here, they're the same, but the meeting you can create in Outlook. And again, mobile devices and webmail are very similar. Let's see. So now what I'm going to get into is actually a very different type of event or meeting, and it's called live events. And you're familiar with it because we're doing it right now. So this is a live event, and it's pretty new, and it's really neat. But it's a completely different kind of concept. Thus far, we've looked at kind of communication things, right? People talking to each other, sharing screens with each other. A live event is more of a presentation, okay, a broadcast, if you will. So the attendees have limited interaction. There is the Q&A, which again, I see you guys are using. We're gonna check that out after the presentation part is finished. But there's the Q&A, but otherwise there really isn't a way for attendees to communicate back. So the idea is, like we're doing now, somebody's doing a presentation, perhaps several people are doing a presentation, maybe passing back and forth or so on and so forth. You can share video and you can share a screen, just like I'm doing. Okay, to create a new one, right next to new meeting, you're gonna click live event, okay? And then here you're going to say test live event or whatever you want to call it. And there's some interesting things here. You can invite other presenters. They need to have teams, okay? If they don't have teams, they can't be a presenter. The other options you have is you can have a live event with just specific people in groups. You can do it org-wide, so your whole organization, but it's only internal. And then this is a feature you have to enable in the Teams Admin Center, but you can have a public meeting like the one we're actually on right now. So for a public live event, it's just like this. You don't have to log in. You send out a link and those people can see and listen. And if you have enabled it, they can be part of the Q&A. Okay. So the other things, I already kind of mentioned this, the recording for regular meetings, you have to enable. You can see it's grayed out. I don't have a choice. For live events, it's going to record it whether I want to or not. Okay, one option you do have, and you guys will notice this, and I'm going to mention this again, but we're going to email you guys in the next day or so with kind of a recap, a document, and a link to this video of this presentation. But you guys can actually come right back to the link that you used to join already after we're done today and watch it again. So you can pass that link around. Okay, and that's what this checkbox is, recording available to attendees. If you haven't tried it out, there's captions as well. So it can actually do a pretty good job of live translating with captions. And then the important one is Q&A. It's not enabled by default, but if you check that box, it's available. And that's pretty much it. You can also put in a direct URL for support. So if somebody needs help, they can click on it. And then you click schedule. So now I've got my live event, a new one. This is my new window. It's already scheduled. And this is the attendee link. This is what you guys use, not the same one. But you click get, it copies to your clipboard. You can use bit.ly or something like that, make it a smaller one because it's a super long one, and send it out to anyone you want to join. Post it on your website, whatever you want to do. You can join via Teams or this link. So the join live event here is for you, and it says do not forward this invite to the attendees. Okay. One final thing, if you have audio conferencing, you can dial into a live event. So I have audio conferencing, I can dial in as a presenter, but people can only join a live event using a computer, via the web, the Teams app, or a mobile app. Okay, so that's how you create it. The other thing of note there for the Q&A is you can actually disable the Q&A. So if that's not something you want, or let's say you wanted to open it up down the road at the end, you could do that as well. And again, we're going to address your questions after the presentation. So a couple more things about the live events. Up to 10,000. Oh, actually, I'm going to backtrack for 1 second. The meetings we talked about previously, not the live events, but the Meet Now, the Outlook meeting, or the meeting created here, have a maximum of 250 participants or attendees. Okay, so there is no way to go beyond that. And kind of along those lines, the limit for a live event is 10,000. Okay, so again, it's not interactive like a regular meeting is, but you can have up to 10,000 people. The other thing of note there is that live events have to be 4 hours or less from the point where you start it. And again, attendees can only join via computer or the Teams app on mobile or on a computer. And again, presenters like myself can dial in if you've got an audio conferencing license. And that's pretty much it for a live event. Again, just to reiterate, because we get this question a lot, all Teams meetings are recorded, all live events, sorry, are recorded automatically, and the recording is available. You saw that checkbox. You can choose not to make that available if you don't want to. It's kind of weird, but Microsoft stores that recording in Stream. So at the end of this live event, I'm going to get an email saying that the recording's available. I know it is because everyone can get to it. For regular Teams meetings, if you record it, same thing. After a little bit of time, after it's processed, you'll get an email in your inbox saying your live event is available in Stream. Here's how to access it. And then you can download it and share it or whatever you want to do there. Okay, so that's pretty much it for recording. I mentioned this a little bit earlier, but I'm going to mention it again because it may be a big deal to you guys. Anybody who is who's in the GCC High, some of these features may be different, and most notably, audio conferencing requires a few more pieces. So if you have any questions about that, just reach out to us. Most of you guys, I think, are in the government cloud or the corporate cloud, and it works just like you're seeing here. But if you're in the GCC High and have any questions about that, let us know. Okay, so next steps. If you don't have Teams, get it. Get an E1, E3, E5, or if you're in the government, G1, G3, G5 license. And again, if you have any questions about those licensing types beyond just getting Teams, just let us know. If you don't have it and you need dial-in capability for your meetings, get the audio conferencing add-on. Okay, I am going to put a link in the Q&A, one more link before I start looking at these questions. And with a document that we put together about a lot of the things we're talking about here. So it's basically kind of like a Teams meeting, Teams meetings cheat sheet. So I just threw that in the Q&A. You should be able to download that. It's going to open up in Word Online. I definitely suggest downloading it. It's a little easier to manipulate there. So review that doc when you get a chance. And as it says, I already put our email address in there. If you already are contacting us regularly, just reach out how you always do. But if you need a point of contact, 365help gets to all the right people. So 365help@liftoffonline.com. Okay, so now what I'm going to do is go through some of these questions. Let's see. From Scott in Burlington, can outside attendees attend if they are not part of the organization? The answer is yes. Okay, so I'm guessing that the question was related to Teams meetings, but yes, they can. The only thing that outside people can't do unless they also have Teams, is be part of chats and group chats. Okay, but for meetings, absolutely, we use this all the time. This is kind of how we onboard new organizations that don't yet even have Office 365. They can still join our Teams meetings. Somebody did ask the question, this is another hot button here. Is it possible to use Teams for public board meetings where members of the public can participate in a moderated fashion? That is an awesome question, a really awesome question. And what I will tell you is I've kind of laid out the limitations of all of these meeting types. Okay, so you need to decide if this is going to fulfill your needs, right? So can everybody who's, how many people are in these public board meetings? We deal with some counties and cities that have hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of people, and we deal with others where the board meetings maybe have 50, right? So if you have 50, you can maybe leverage a Teams meeting. And people can join with Chrome or the mobile app or whatever. And if you have audio conferencing, they can dial in. So again, there are ways to use Teams for public board meetings. But again, if you hit these limitations that I mentioned, and check out the doc that I just posted, if you hit the limitations that I just mentioned, it may not be able to work for you, right? So just check it out. One of the things that we strongly recommend is testing this stuff out, seeing if it would work for you. Somebody else asked about cost. I'm not really going to get into cost here, only because there's so many different people attending this call, and everyone's in a different cloud and different things like that. So the pricing might vary. Just reach out to us, and we can get you specific pricing for yourself. Let's see. So I'm going to go down the list a little more. Let's see. So somebody else asked about sharing screens. I think that was early on, and I kind of went over that in meetings. Even guests can share their screens as long as they have Chrome. Somebody else asked about the differences between Teams and Skype. I'm not really going to get into that too much. The one thing I would tell you is if you guys are using Skype, it's something that you need to transition away from, because I think it's July of 2021, it's going away completely. Okay, if you've got Skype on premise, that's up to you. But if you're using Skype for business in the cloud, Skype is going away. So Teams is going to be your only option. And honestly, I used Skype for years. Teams is way better. So if you have the opportunity to test it out, please do. But the differences are so numerous, it's impossible to kind of get into it. Another really good question, is the audio conferencing license per site or per user? It is absolutely per user. And one thing I'm not sure I mentioned is you share the dial-in number. So when I send out a meeting, it's a 443 number, which is kind of local to where I am, just because I had to pick somewhere. And then when people get the meeting, they could be dialing into any Teams meeting anywhere and use the same number. It's the conference ID that gets you into my meeting. Okay, so you can change that number for anybody. But again, the audio conferencing is per user. Let's see, so somebody said they don't see a way to mute the microphone. I think that was specific to this meeting, that you guys can't, with the live event, just as a reminder, only presenters can speak. So these were all early on. I'm going to go to some of the later ones. Let's see. Are you able to request control of the screen if they're sharing it? That's a really good question. So if you're in a meeting or a chat, anything like that, and somebody's sharing their screen, you can request control, or they can just give it to you. If you hover your mouse at the top of a shared window, a bar comes down that says stop presenting or pass presenter role, things like that. So that's an option. Let's see, somebody else asked about retention policies and Teams. I'm just going to say they're in the same place as all other retention policies, Security and Compliance Center. If you need specifics, please do reach out. Couple more, and then I think we're going to wrap up here. Let's see. Actually, this is an interesting one. I am going to take an opportunity to show you guys this. So somebody asked if setting up Teams through Outlook Desktop is the same as OA, and also about PC versus Mac. and setting up a meeting. So absolutely, I'm going to show you a couple more things. Everything I've shown you is a Windows PC, which ironically, I'm on a Mac, and you can probably see Windows 10 at the top. This is a virtual computer. But what I'm going to do is open up a new browser. I'm going to close other tabs, and I'm going to show you some of the things you can do. Actually, I'm going to do it in a incognito. So I'm going to do everything in webmail real quick. This won't take very long, but I just want to show you the experience a little bit. It's a little different. So I need to log in here. Shouldn't take long. Okay, so when you log into webmail, you can see, if you didn't already know it, it's outlook.office365.com. If I want to make a new, I don't want to answer my little survey. If I want to make a new Teams meeting from webmail, it's just like any other meeting. I can just say new event. And then you see there's a toggle here for Teams meeting. Okay, so when I enable that, as I mentioned earlier, and this is the same on Macs, it's the same on mobile, and it's the same creating a meeting in the Teams app. The Teams information doesn't show up until after you send the meeting. Okay, so when you send the Teams invite, as soon as it gets added to your calendar, so I'm actually going to say test meeting OA, and again, I'm going to invite Ron, and I'm just going to say test, right? So there's no Teams meeting listed here. I'm going to send it. And now I can't remember where I added it. Let's see. There it is. Okay, so now I'm going to open it, and you can see my Teams information is here. Okay, so it wasn't available before I sent it. So there is a pretty big difference between creating it anywhere besides the Outlook app on Windows, where I showed you earlier, before you even send it, you see all your Teams info. The other thing I'll show you just while we're here is Teams on the web. It's going to look very familiar. So Teams on the web, as I mentioned, is you go to teams.microsoft.com. Okay, you can say use on the web instead. It's almost identical to the app. Okay, so all of my chats, everything is here. You can see all the stuff I pinned to conversations, they're up there. I'm actually going to show you that if I'm chatting with Ron, one of the things that's missing here is the shared desktop. Okay, I believe because I'm in incognito, shared desktop does definitely work in Teams meetings using Chrome, and that's what I'm using. But again, there's some limitations. The other is video doesn't seem to work in other browsers, or I have not gotten it to work in other browsers. It's ever changing though. So I hope that answered the question about Outlook Desktop versus OA versus Mac. I thought that was a really good question. And let's see, so when doing a meeting, can you change the camera layout? Yes, you can do a little bit with it. One of the things it lets you do, and this is rolling out, so if you're in the government cloud or if you're in the GCC high cloud, you may not have the same features that everyone else has. But if you're in the middle of a meeting, you do have the opportunity to obfuscate the background. So it kind of zeroes in on just you for a video meeting, which is pretty neat. You can't really change where people are. In fact, we had a meeting the other day with I think there were 5 of us. And every time I minimized and maximized Teams, everyone was in a different place. So it's like the Brady Bunch, though. Everyone's kind of in a different square on the screen. Okay, I think that's it for the Q&A, or at least as far as this kind of live presentation goes. I think, so thank you guys very much for joining today. I know you guys are super busy. I hope this does help explain some of the features and limitations of Microsoft Teams. If any of these options seem like they could be helpful in your organization, like I mentioned earlier, please test it. It's absolutely worth getting one, say, G1 license if you don't already have one, and just play around with it. Create meetings, send it to your Gmail account, try it out. Make sure it does what you want. And again, that kind of goes back to the town halls and the public meetings. See if it does exactly what you want. And then at that point, you can kind of deploy it to everyone. It certainly is one of the best tools on the market for intra-organizational use, right? Like between Ron and I. And again, you can imagine if you had hundreds of people, it works very well. When you start introducing things like an external conference where everyone needs to participate, you just need to find out if this is going to fulfill your needs. Okay, I'm going to end the presentation now, but we are going to stick around and answer a few more of the Q&As. As always, if you guys need anything, any more information, please reach out. I've posted the email address. And like I said, I'm going to bring up that slide again. I posted the email address. Actually, I won't. Yeah, I'll bring it up. So if you have any questions, it's 365help@liftoffonline.com. And if you had a question that I don't get to today in the Q&A, please do reach out. Okay. Thank you guys so much for attending. I hope you guys have a great day. Stay safe.